So we support final year students for their projects, and we strengthen the ability of the researcher in terms of writing papers and all. So I would like to introduce myself again as Mr. Olajuwon, the CEO of IRS Research Institute. So here I have the speaker with me, Mr. Ibigbami Olaniyi. Is actually he was my lecturer. I'm his student, so I'm so honored for the fact that he accepts to join us and accepts my invitation. So he's my lecturer from Federal School of Statistics Economics. He's an economics lecturer, and he is doing his PhD currently. So he's going to be a doctor soon. So it's someone that I've had a lot of international journals papers. So I believe that it's going to take us through how we can, defend your particular final year project that is coming on soon. So, sir, please, you can have the floor, sir. So you can introduce yourself better because thank you, sir, for having you, sir.
All right, Mr. Olajuwon. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And I would like to say good evening, everyone. My name is Mr. Ibigbami from Ekiti State, a lecturer from Federal School of Statistics in Ibadan. And presently, I'm running my PhD program, Federal University of Ekiti. So I will be taking you tonight on how to demonstrate your project, final year project presentation. So I wish you best of luck, and I believe you guys will all have a very good grade at the end of the program. So before I will start, I believe everybody understands the meaning of projects. Project is all about chapter one, chapter two, chapter three, chapter four, up to chapter five. So all this is what your examiner or your supervisor or everybody in the department, they want you to speak about it within a certain period of time. Let's say maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So tonight I would like to, talk about some things you need to know so that you will not have a problem, or you will not have a grade, or they will tell you rubbish or work, or this work is not that perfect. So number one things you need to do is you must demonstrate the ownership of the work. You need to demonstrate it perfectly. You must have confidence and compose yourself. Don't speak to yourself, you speak to the audience. Do you get me? You don't need to be afraid. You let everybody know that, okay, this work, oh, I'm the ownership of this work. Even if someone help you to, to do the analysis or to write chapter, whatever, you have to demonstrate as if this work belongs to me. Do you understand? So you need to speak out. Don't speak to yourself. You speak to the audience with confidence. You don't need to be afraid. So, and number two things you need to know is that you need to understand the project very well. I believe you guys are trying to, write some things down like that. So you need to understand the project very well. Like, even Tomba Jelo Joro, you must be able to say, this is my topic. Not that during the process, you are trying to even, you don't understand the topic. So you need to understand the variables. That's number one thing. Which one is dependent variable? Which one is independent variable? Do you understand? So once you understand this, you understand your work. So after you understand this topic very well, you need to now understand the background of the studies. I'm still going to do justice to all these things one after the other. And also, you need to understand the statement of the problem. Those are the things they want to hear from you. Your background of the studies, your statement of the problem, the objective, then research question, followed by the hypothesis, then followed by your methodology. After this, you now talk about your findings. Are you getting me? From there, you talk about the conclusion, and some of the recommendation you have. Do you understand? So tonight, I would like to use a particular topic as an example so that you understand what the project is all about. So I'll be using inflation and economic growth in Nigeria as an example. Let's look at time series between 1986 to 2004. Now you understand the topic now. We want to look at the effects of inflation on economic growth. Do you get it now? So you see, we want to see how inflation affects. Is it negative? We want to look at the relationship between the two. Are you getting me? So let's use this as an example. But if it is at master's level, you know this is just two variables now. I mean the examples that you want to use. But assuming at master's level, you can have like three variables. For example, we can have financial development, domestic investment, and economic growth. You can see this one is three variables now. So we want to look at the financial development on economic growth. We want to look at domestic investment on economic growth. Then we now want to look at the two together on economic growth. Do you understand? But because you are still on BSc level, so let's look at the inflation and economic growth in Nigeria between the period of 1986 to 2004. Now, for your background of the study, it's not that you'll be reading everything. You get it? It's not that you'll be reading everything from one paragraph to another. What you just need to know is once you understand the variable, inflation and economic growth. So the next thing you need to do is you have to define each variable. For example, according to so 2002, that's the citation and your citation, and it has to be recent one, not that you be saying citation of 2002. That is wrong. Your citation should be between 4 or 5 years to this period. Are you getting? You know, you are using to 2004. So your citation should be 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020. Do you understand now? So you need to define the meaning of inflation. For example, according to today, 2004. Do you understand? It defined inflation as this, as this, as this. Also, Shade in 2022 or Peter in so year also define inflation as this. From this, you have explained the inflation. Then you now move to the second variable, which is economic growth. In this case, you must be able to define the meaning of the economic growth. That is, economic growth according to, it can be according to, let's say, according to this professor, Aluko. Do you understand? Define economic growth as this. According to Bakari in 2025, it defined economic growth as this. So after this, now listen again. You need to define the inflation. You need to define economic growth. You now look at the trend between the inflation and economic growth. That is, what is the trend between the two? So once you look at this, that presently in Nigeria, the inflation rate is this, whereby the economic growth presently, as at 2023, do you understand? This is the economic growth in Nigeria, whereas the inflation is this. And also in 2024, this is inflation rate and economic growth. So after this, you now link the variable together. That is, you link the relationship between the variable, that is the relationship between the inflation and economic growth, according to some authors or some researchers ahead of you. Àwọn tó ti ṣiṣẹ́ nípa iṣẹ́ yẹn rí. Do you understand? You have to link the two together. Maybe Babatunde said there is a positive relationship between it, and this is what and what Babatunde used. Are you getting me now? Whereas this is, some people said there is a negative, a positive relationship between the economic growth and this. So you need to mention some earlier researcher discovered. Are you getting me? the relationship between them, whether positive, whether negative. Do you understand? So that is for your background of the study. So I believe you guys understand. So let's now move to the statement of the problem. Now, your background of the study will lead to your statement of the problem. You need to state the problem. You need to let us know the reason why you want to have this research topic, why you have this research work. For example, from our example, we are using inflation and economic growth. You can say that despite the various government policy in order to promote economic growth, there is still persistent increase in inflation rates. Are you getting me? So since because of this persistent inflation, do you understand? From so figure to so figure, and economic growth also reduced from particular figure to another figure. So you need to explain this problem, how it affects some other variables. That is, if the inflation increase, how it leads to poverty. If inflation increase, how it affects savings and investments. Do you understand my point? Then you now try to identify the gap. What I mean by identify the gap is that in your statement of the problem, you say, okay, Babatunde in 2022 in 2022 said there's a positive relationship, and this is the particular methodology, maybe in terms of descriptive statistics to low, or in terms of inferential statistics to low. Do you understand? Whereas some people are saying, no. Some researchers said it is positive, not negative. So because of this inconsistency, it creates a gap in the empirical, in the literature. So because of this, this is where you have your further investigation using the recent Nigeria data. So I'm using this topic as an example. Maybe I should try to come back again. So I should try to, to go over it again so that you can understand. I'm talking about the statement of the problem now. So one thing you need to know is you need to understand the problem very well. Like what you are just using, we are using inflation and economic growth as an example. So you said that despite the fact that the government aims at promoting the economic growth, there is still this persistent increase in price of goods and services. Are you getting me? For example, in 2020, the inflation increased from so figure to another figure, while the economic growth decreased from so figure to another figure. So, and also look at some of the gap that you want to cover, you notice that some researchers found a positive, while some said it is negative, based on some of their descriptive statistic or inferential method that they use. So this creates inconsistency in the studies. Do you get it now? So therefore, the studies want to examine the relationship between so variable and so variable. So can we now move to point 3? Under point 3, that's where you'll be talking about the objective of the studies. Under this, you need to understand two things. There is general objective and there is specific objective. So the general objective is you want to examine the relationship between particular variables and so. Why the specific objective are, so when you look at your work, maybe you want to look at the trend and pattern. When you look at trend and pattern, definitely you can achieve this by using graph. Do you get it? Now, maybe objective 2, you want to look at the relationship, you want to analyze or you want to examine the relationship between this and this. Just check your work. Some will say you want to investigate so on this. Do you understand? So objective must be aligned, please. You have to make sure that your objective align with the entire project. Do you understand? Because from topic to problem, from problem to objective, and from objective to research question. From this, your research question will lead to hypothesis. Do you understand? So that is why I'm trying to, that you must understand the objective of the studies very well. If your objective is 3, definitely your research objective should be 3. whereas your hypothesis 2 is going to be 3. Do you understand? So after this, your objective, then you need to let us understand the meaning of the research question. And this research question must come from the objective. For example, if the objective says we want to look at the relationship, we want to examine the relationship of one variable to another variable. So the research question will be, there should be, the objective question, for example, is want to examine the effect of inflation on economic growth. If that is all, objective 1, your research question is, what is the effect of the inflation on economic growth? Do you get it now? So when you look at objective 2, you pick objective 2, you pick research question objective 2 from objective, you pick research question number 2, from objective 2. Are you getting me? Where also, you also pick your research question 3 from objective 3. Do you understand? So after this, you now move to hypothesis. I think you should understand the meaning of, the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. But mostly economics projects, we use null hypothesis. For example, inflation has no significant effect on economic growth. Your hypothesis too can be, it depends. If you look at inflation rate, you can decide to have some control variable. Like, definitely there's no way you talk about inflation rate that you are not going to talk about the interest rate and money supply. So you can try to prove this. That is, if you want to make your model to be robust. Do you understand? So inflation, you can say, okay, interest rates has no significant effect on economic growth. Why you can say money supply has no significant effect on economic growth. Do you understand? So these are how to, to formulate your objective. So just check your work. You need to understand the objective, the research objective. You need to understand your research question, and you need to understand the hypothesis as well. Do you understand now? Because if this hypothesis, for example, if your p-value is 0.3 at 5% significant, it is less than 0.5, you need to reject your H null. Do you understand? So all these things, maybe when we get to chapter 3, we discuss this. So under the chapter 1, what you just need to understand is your background of the studies, the statement of the problem, the objective, the research question, your hypothesis. After this, just move to chapter 2. In your chapter 2, you don't need to stress yourself. What you just need to do is just mention some of the theories and how those theories, definitely are going to talk about model, the solo growth model, all those things. You understand? You can just mention them. That, sir, when you check the chapter 2, you can see. I told you have to be in charge of that work. That, sir, if you look at my work in chapter 2, I talk about this theory, and this theory is related to this particular theory because this and this related to this. That's all. After this, just talk about the empirical review. That is some work that you reviewed. Do you understand? So that you can get the gap. So, for example, under this aspect is very, very important. Do you understand? You can say, for example, Mohammed in 2025 examine the relationship between the inflation and the economic growth. You need to tell us the results of this Mohammed. You need to tell us the findings. Do you get it now? Number 2, Babatunde in 2023, he also examined the relation between this and this, using maybe descriptive statistic or using the inferential statistic. For example, you need to tell us all these estimation techniques. For example, ALDL. Do you understand the findings of the ALDL, the VECM? Maybe you understand those things. You must be able to tell us all these things. So at least you need to at least you need to talk about up to like 5 different uh, authors that reviewed their work. Do you understand? So after this, you move to chapter 3, which is very, 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 very important. So in chapter 3, that's where we talk about your research design. That is, you need to understand, you need to let us know that you are using a particular design for your work. For example, is it quantitative expo factor research design that you want to use to examine the relationship between the variables? Do you understand? You need to tell us that the study will make use of both descriptive and inferential econometric techniques. All these things must be included in your research design, your research design. Also, you need to talk about your source of data, which you all know we make use of secondary data, except some people that are using primary data, which means you are going to design a questionnaire before you generate your stuff. But in economics, most of us, we use time series, so we are using secondary data. And here you must tell us the source. Are you getting the data from the CBN, or are you getting it from the World Bank? All these things must be, must able to say it out. And also, we move to your population of the studies. That is, your population of the study, maybe it comprises of all the time series of the observation. For example, from our studies, we are using 1986 to 2024. Do you understand? So giving a total of 39 annual observation for each. Do you understand? So after this, we talk about the sample size and the period of the studies. So, from this, because we are using 1986 to 2024, our sample size, maybe it's 39 observation. So you must let them know the reason for choosing this period. Are you getting me? So maybe, for example, this period was selected to provide a sufficient long time series observation, or in order to know the long time relationship between the variable. Do you understand? So after this, you now talk about your model specification. That is where you talk about your model. Do you understand? So I'm sorry for that. That's why you talk about your model specification. For example, we are talking about the economic growth and inflation. That's what we are using as an example. So what do you want to use to capture your economic growth? Maybe you are using RGDP. Do you understand? Why your inflation, you have to use maybe INF. That is your RGDP. Do you understand? Is equals to F, you open a bracket of INF, which is inflation. Do you understand? After this, you now talk about the econometric model of it, whereby we have RGDP equals to alpha plus beta 1 with your inflation, then with your with your error terms. Do you understand? So after this, you must be able to explain this model. That is, my RGDP, do you understand, represents the economic growth. That's what we want to use to capture the economic growth. Why the inflation means why INF means inflation. Why my alpha, the intercept, why my B1, beta is your coefficient of inflation. Why then the last one is zero terms. But if you want to make this a robust model, are you getting me? You can try to put money supply, or you put interest rates to the equation. Are you getting me? So these two will serve as a control variable. So after this, you talk about the expected relationship. That is, what do you expect? What kind of relationship do you want us to see? That at the end of the day, inflation must be able to give us minus, must be negative. Why the interest rate is also negative, why money supply is positive. All these things are under expected relationship. Do you understand? So after this, you can quickly talk about your measurement of your variable. That is my RGDP. I'm going to use annual percentage growth rate of real GDP. Why my NIF, which is annual percentage of change in consumer price index. Do you understand that that is what you want to use? So, and the expected sign is that for the dependent variable, which is your economic growth, why for the inflation, the expected sign, which is what? Negative. So after this, this is where your GAT to want to listen to this aspect very well. That is your estimation techniques. Here, they want to look at how do you achieve those objectives one after the other. Are you getting me? You know, remember I told you, if your first objective, you are talking about the trend and pattern, in this aspect now, you'll be using graph to explain it. Because you said trend and pattern. Here you'll be using graph to explain how the inflation is moving, how it's increased in 1982, in 1999, in 2000, like that. And what is the real GDP during all this period. So you have to use graph to explain this. Are you getting me? So if your objective 2 is this, maybe you want to use descriptive statistics, you must be able to explain this. When you do your e-view, maybe you use your e-view to run your data, you must be able to explain your descriptive statistics, the mean, the median, the mode, and the standard deviation. All these things, you must be able to explain it. Do you understand? After this, if you are using two variables, maybe you use correlation, you must be able to explain correlation matrix. And if you use regression, you must be able to explain your result as well. Are you getting me? So when we get to all these things, I will explain this to you. After this, talk about your unit root test. After this, talk about ARDL bond tests. Why the last one is diagnostic test. You know, when we go to hospital, doctor has to diagnose. So you need to also diagnose your result as well. Do you understand? To see if there's any problem. So let me just hold on now if I have a question from the house.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Please go ahead, ask your question. We are with you.
All right, sir. When you're talking about the chapter one, you talked about the objective, the research question, and hypothesis. But I wanted to ask that if you have your research question, is it necessary for us to have our hypothesis too? Like having both research question and hypothesis at the same time? That's my question, sir.
Yes, I'm with you. Can I answer that question now? Yeah, it depends on the studies. For example, now in OAU, we don't use hypothesis. You don't put it. Do you understand? I'm talking about from Akuba, you know, Adekunle Adash University, the OAU. We don't use hypothesis. We don't put it. But you know, some schools they want to, you know, want you to put it. As I say, it depends on your supervisors or it depends on your project guide. I'm talking about, school normally give us a project guide to the students. Do you understand? So it is not important. Do you understand? But some schools, they will want you to put it. Why some schools, they will ignore it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the presentation, sir. So my question is, of of all that has been said so far, I've been able to put some things down, but I'm looking at how well can we present these things because we don't have all the. We are definitely not going to. I'm definitely not going to be the only one presenting that day. So, considering they gave me the time, like, let's say 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm not sure we can like say all these things that you have highlighted above, sir. I don't know how well we can do that, sir. Is there a way that we can shorten it and still convey everything within that brevity of time? Thank you, sir.
I love your question, Mr. Busayo. It's not going to be good for me to present and to let you know that this is the short way. Do you understand? So that is why I said the first thing you need to do is you need to understand your work very well. In fact, when you get to some points, some lecturer will tell you, please move to the next stage. So in order to make a kind of, because of the time, what you just need to do is understand the topic very well. First, understand the dependent and independent variable of it. After this, I told you about your background of the study. You need to, once you understand those variables, sharp, define the variable for them according to some. Do you understand? Maybe Babatunde in so. He defined this as this. Kiniko, he defined this as this. Do you understand? So once you understand this, try to link the two together. Do you understand? That in so year, this increase, whereby this, do you understand? And because of this, that's all. Sir, I told you have to be in control. The next thing, sir, when you look at the statement of the problem, then you move to your statement of the problem. The place, if you look at that's why the fact that there is this various policy, by the government or because of to control the inflation rate. Do you understand? We still notice that there is still persistent increase in inflation. And these are some of the gap, or these are some of the interests. Are you getting me? That even in some research work, some people said there is positive relationship, while some people said there is a negative relationship. So because of this, are you getting me, sir? Because of this inconsistent, this creates a kind of empirical gap. And that is why you yourself want to investigate. That's all. I kind of know that all these things I'm saying, do you understand? So, you have your work with you now, so you have to be in control. So immediately after this, you say, sir, when you look at the objective of this study, we have general study and general objective, and we have a specific objective. My general objective says we want to examine the relationship between this and this. Why my specific objective are, you can see, sir, maybe from page 4, sir. Are you there, sir? Thank you, sir. In page 4, it says, we want to do and this, we want to examine this, you want to do clinical this. That's all. After that, you now say, sir, this my objective links to my research question. If you look at my objective 1, you can see that my research question 1 also linked to objective 1. You can certainly not to read, sir. Are you getting me? Sir, if you look again, sir, you will see that my objective 2, do you understand? My research question 2 also link to my objective 2. Do you understand? And I told you the hypothesis sometimes is not necessary. It depends on the project guide given by the school. Do you understand? So once you are done job chapter 1, bros, what you just need to talk about is say something about the background, say something about the statement, say something about the objective. Are you with me, sir? Then say something about research question. Don't stress yourself with the hypothesis. But if your guy said, please, want you to talk about the hypothesis, fine, but most schools they ignore this. Do you understand? So after this, that is for chapter 1. Immediately you move to chapter 2. Are you getting me, sir? That in my chapter 2, these are some of the theory that these are some of the theory that relates to my studies. Number 1, solo model. Number 2, aerodoma. Number 3, now number 4, like that. Are you getting me? And so, if you look at this work, sir, in my empirical review, I reviewed over 10 different research work on this. You may decide not to read for them. You just said that I reviewed over 10. As you can see this in page 12. I reviewed Lawan in 2023. I reviewed Babatunde in 2024. I reviewed iOS in 2023, and you can see their result. Now you leave it. That is the end of chapter 2. Then in my chapter 3, that's where we have our research design. Do you understand? Sir, my sources of data, I'm using data from 1986 to 2024. And I'm going to get all this data. The source is from the CBN or from the World Bank. So I think I've answered that your question in kind of, do you understand, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. So, Mr. Samuel Kola, I think you can ask your question now.
Oh, good evening, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful and excellent presentation you have given us, and thank you for the enlightenment, sir. My question goes thus: based on what I've had so far concerning can we report hypothesis or can we report research question? So let's say that my supervisor require that I present both the research question and also I had hypothesis to it. My question is if I'm to get to the result aspect, am I to use my research question? Am I to use my research question, research objective for the results? For to use the hypothesis to align my results? I think that's my own question. I don't know if you get it, sir.
Yeah, I think what you're asking is that when you are trying to do your analysis, that should you talk about the hypothesis of a thing? Do you understand? So this is the next stage you are moving to in the presentation. Are you getting me? So I would advise you to just give us some time. We are still going to tackle that aspect. Do you understand? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question, please? Any other question before we proceed?
Sir, I have another question, sir.
All right, sir.
Concerning presentation defense, sir, I want to ask in a situation whereby I just want to have an opinion, or let me just say an understanding on maybe peradventure one of the article that you cited when you are saying that, oh, I reviewed this social number of article. Let's see one of the panel now. They pick a search online and they discover that the citation is wrong, or the citation is not properly cited, or let me just say that it's a fabricated one. No, it's possible that like it just happened that it's a fabricated one. How do one address such issue? Or let's say it's a matter of methodology. Instead of using a particular method, one use a particular method, but after justified why I use the method, the data come up with something that, oh, you should have used this method instead of using the one that I've used. How do I respond to such a scenario and I'll still be on top of my game while acknowledging what they said? Do you get my question, sir?
Yeah, Mr. Samuel, I understand your question. For example, you are talking about some of the paper you review, and your guy was saying that No, 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 no. This particular something is wrong. If something like that is even why will you put all those your boss, your guy you are seeing, all of them they are researchers, so they knew the numbers of papers, they know much about this. Do you understand? So I'm very sure you two cannot put some of the year or some of the authors that are not exist now. Why? I trust you for that. But if something like that happen, you don't need to argue with them. Just say, sir, noted. I will work on it, sir. Do you understand? Man, Franco, man, they argue. Just tell them, okay, sir, noted. I will work on it. Do you understand? Or I will make some findings. Do you understand? So that is it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Gained a lot from your class today. So, as the class is going on, I've been able to jot one or two things down. So, before I will talk about what I've jotted down, do you still have anything to talk about, Mr. Ibigbami, sir? Before I go about the summary. Mr. Samuel, please mute your mic. So, Mr. Ibigbami, sir, do you still have anything to talk about? Because I want to discuss about a summary of what you have said so far.
Uh, yes, yes. Let me quickly talk about this.
All right.
Hello?
Yes, sir. We are with you, sir.
All right. Now I want I want you guys to just look at your chapter 4, which is very, very important. Please, if you are using descriptive statistics, please go and understand it. Do you get it? That maybe the mean, the median, or maybe some is normally distributed or is not. Do you understand? And if you use regression, you need to understand the word regression table. Are you getting me? And in your regression, please, this is what I want you to read, or this is what I want you to say to them. You need to talk about the coefficients. One, that is if you are using regression. No? You need to talk about the p-value, which is 2. You need to talk about the R-square, which is 3. And you need to talk about the adjusted R-square, which is 4. And you need to talk about the F statistics, which is 5. And the last one is W waxing statistics. Do you understand? In W waxing, if your DW is greater than 2, it means there's a positive autocorrelation. But if your W waxing, is less than 2, then there's a negative autocorrelation. Do you understand? So after this is if your work, you are using regression, please, all these points, let me come back, let me just read it again. You need to explain your coefficients. You need to understand the meaning of p-value. You need to understand the meaning of R squared. You need to understand the meaning of adjusted R squared. You need to understand the meaning of S statistics, and you need to understand W waxing statistics. So after this, if your work is using unit root test, just tell them that this work, I make use of ARDF, that is augmented decimfuller something, or you use Phillips, that is PP. Just tell them, sir, this is what I use. And in my unit root test, I just test this to make sure that my variables are stationary. Man stress just tell them that in my unit root test, if you look at the results, you can see that all the variables are stationary. Nobody will ask you about which you get it. I told you need to be in charge. You control the panel. Do you understand? So if you now, maybe your work have ARDL bound text, you need to explain. This one is talking about the short run and long run relationship. So you need to explain your result in this aspect. So after this, we now said, sir, I also test for diagnostic text. That's why I said this patient basic, doctor might diagnose. So you diagnose the results. So in my diagnostic text, you tell us some of these things that you do there. Maybe you do serial correlation, you do heteroscedasticity, you do normality, you do model specification, and you do stabilities. All these things you need to tell us. So after this, you now talk about your conclusion, then your recommendation, just read it for them. Don't stress yourself. That recommendation number 1, he said this. Recommendation number 2, we have this. Recommendation number 3, you have this. Answer. If you check my references, you can see that I use APA formats. And you can see I use recent work. Are you getting me? Thank you. Thank you. You can ask me any questions, sir. I need you will tell them any questions, sir.
Class. Thank you so much. So, I think in the absence of no question, we have a limited time. So, I think our time is, I think, less than 15 minutes now. So, I'll just summarize what my Oga have said and what I've been saying since morning. So, I think the first thing you have to do in the summary is you identify your variables according to what he said. So, identify your variables. Make sure you know your variables from your topic or from your objective. Then the next thing, the statement of the problem is important according to what my Oga said. So know the statement of the problem, know those key issues that are affecting your studies, and from that you're able to identify your research gap. Like what are the additional things you want to add to it that are going to make your own papers, your own research to be different from others. Then my Oga also talks about your objective and your research questions and your hypotheses must link together like this. It must be saying the same thing. Your objective or your research questions might not be saying A and your hypothesis is saying B. So that's an error from day one. So then most importantly, your scope. Your scope is also important. I think my Oga also discussed about that. The scope for people that are using time series. What are the range that you are looking at? What year are you covering? So then another thing, my Oga also discussed about the results. Your result, which is mainly your chapter 4, and it also explained how you can identify those variables that are significant and those variables that are not significant. And I've also explained a lot. I'm just giving you the summary of what my Oga have been saying. Then another important thing is your conclusion and recommendation. Then he also talks about the source of the data. So tell them the source. The source of data is also an important thing. So they have to know the source where you get your data from. You have to know the source where you get your data from. So that's that. I think that's what I can jot down at my own hand, and I believe that other people, you too, you are jotting things down. So additional to what my boss, my Oga, my daddy, my lecturers have been saying so far. So I want to point out something. If somebody has a question that you don't have enough time to say all these things, blah blah blah, because I know myself, because we work for some lit students. We have a lit student that have more than 100 pages for their final year projects. Yes, you cannot read out all their other 100 pages, but I also believe that, which my Oga also have said that your abstracts have covered it all. Your abstract is just like the summary of your projects. That's why you have an abstract. So if you cannot cram anything from your 100 and 200, and what my Oga will say, if you just go through your abstract, because there are some situations whereby you need to just tell them what you know about your project before they start asking you questions. So I'm talking based on my own experience from University of Ibadan. So they will ask you, what can you say about this project you are holding? Don't stress yourself. Once you know your project very well, you know what is inside your abstract. Your abstract have covered everything: your topic, your objective, your variable, your results, your recommendation, and your conclusion, and some keywords. So that's just the little things I can add to it. My Oga have said it all, and I really appreciate. I personally get a lot from this class this time. So I'm using this medium and this opportunity saying thank you so much, sir. We know that from your previous precious time, you find a time for us to come and take this class. Thank you so much, sir. So please let us thank my boss. I want you to unmute your mic, and I want everybody to say thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
sir.
so
We
much.
appreciate you, sir.
You are welcome. Thank you, everyone. God bless you. Wish you all the best tomorrow. I think you are starting your defense tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Good night.